call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Waller,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Phillipson,
Yes.
Mayor East,
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to add the application for exempt permit for the MDHA, item E on the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Also, I'd like to, I'll make a motion to move item 11, XI, other business, up to under citizen comments.
I will second.
Any discussion? We'll discuss it then. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Citizen comments. If anyone would like to speak to the council, now would be the time to do it, if it's not already on the agenda. Okay, so we'll move right into other business. Police department discussion. So how do we want to proceed with this?
I think based off of our discussion previously in our closed meeting that we need to make a decision of what we want to do moving forward here with the
Right.
department, whether we want to seek a contract with the sheriff's department, or if we want to move forward to try to salvage the department that we have remaining. I think that's what's kind of before us right now.
Right. To bring everybody up to speed, there's been several discussions and several talks, and we've had a couple closed meetings with the council regarding the Morris Police Department. And our options, well, we have actually several options, but our options are to continue it as it is and try to recruit new volunteers. It looks like that we were actually down to a viable 2 officers in a very short time out of 8. One option would be to seek out new leadership and recruit new members. And one option would be to contract with the Stevens County Sheriff's Department for law enforcement in the city of Morris. We've had, as I said, we've had a couple of closed meetings. We've talked about it a little bit in an open meeting. Last night we had a closed meeting, and a lot of information was brought that I guess I hadn't heard before, some of it. And I appreciate all involved that shared information. I guess after that meeting, this is probably the hardest decision that has come upon me in 21 years of being on the council, 16 of which is I've been mayor and 5 as city council member. And I think we really have no, we don't have a lot of options here. We do have options, but I think at this point, I feel that it's in our best interest to contract with the Stevens County Sheriff's Department. And I'd like each one of the council members to weigh in on that, and then we can discuss more.
I would agree with you. I guess we've looked at it, and I think everyone here has wanted to keep our current police department, but we're down to a chief, and we, in a short time, we're gonna have one officer left. As much as we hate to give up that control, I think after the meetings we've had, we're left with no option but to move forward and try to contract with Stevens County Sheriff's Department. I think after the meetings, what we found out, talking with the sheriff and chief deputy, that I think we're gonna end up with pretty much hopefully the same type of coverage that we've had with our local police department, but gonna have a bigger department that'll hopefully be able to handle things and work back and forth with the staff to accommodate both the county and the city of Morris.
Mayor, I guess I'd like to kind of reiterate what you said. You know, the path Brian and I, of course, were on the Joint Services Commission when that first rolled out 3 years ago, and we had a lot of good discussions at that time, and the discussions as of late have been very beneficial. To your point, you know, Aaron brought up some things last night that I hadn't considered, but as I shared with the rest of the council last night, and one of my closing thoughts were I'm really having a hard time with this. And I tossed and turned most of the night, in fact, trying to come up with how I wanted to go forward, at least from my perspective. And so I just want to communicate to you, Mayor, and I guess to everybody here, what my thoughts are. And it's easier for me to just kind of read this, so I don't lose my train of thought, but what kind of led my thoughts and what guided my thoughts was I looked at historically where we've been with this Morris Police Department. In other words, how long have we had a Morris Police Department? And my understanding of this is, and Blaine, you maybe know the exact date, but I think the police department has been in basically since the charter began back in the late 1800s. I think we've had a police department. So, and the reason why I bring that up is because it's over 140 years of history. And I gotta believe that the people that were sitting in these chairs back then had a lot of challenges also. Now, I want you to kind of look at that or think about in that frame while I read this, and I'll just kind of let you think, and we can, of course, hopefully it stems some conversation. But a little over 2 weeks ago, City Manager Blaine Hill informed the City Council that we have a problem in the Morris Police Department. He said we are losing officers to the point that we are not able to sustain a police department. Now, 2 weeks later, we, the City Council, are considering taking our problem and giving it to Sheriff Jason Dingman in hopes that he can figure it out. It's unfair, in my opinion, to Jason and his department to be burdened with this. I believe this is our problem. They already have a full plate with their current obligations, and my fear is that they will be taking on more than they can handle. And that's coming from here. My recommendation is that we enter into contract with the Stevens County to cover the essential services we need until the point in time we get back to full strength. If we remain committed, we will once again have a strong police presence in Morris. I do agree with City Manager Hill that this problem is systemic. This thing, I believe, will turn around. The citizens of this country will not accept the current soft on crime policies. We as a council need to roll up our sleeves and figure this out for the long-term benefit of law enforcement for the citizens of the Morris community. I will not be the one to abolish the Morris Police Department without a concerted effort to get to the root cause of this issue. Once you vote to eliminate her police department, you'll never get it back. I know it's probably not what everybody wanted to hear, but that's my feeling.
Thank you, Kevin.
I've thought about this for a while too, and talking to a few people and Sheriff Dingman, I really believe that there's no one really specifically to blame for what's been happening with our department. People have been leaving for specific reasons, maybe personal, maybe they don't want to be an officer anymore, maybe they want to be a little closer to home, maybe they just don't want to deal with our environment these days and how everybody views officers and everything like that. So, and I think I've been on the council just short of 10 years, and we've swore in 17 officers. That's a lot. That's a lot of officers. I don't believe that I've seen that much turnover in the sheriff's department. So I really like the program that they're doing there, the leadership that they're doing there. I think it's very strong. I think that the public will not know the difference with how they're serviced, other than it's going to be a brown uniform instead of a blue uniform. They're going to give all the services we've ever had before, and I think actually stronger, because they'll have a larger force to do more with. You can do more things with that larger force. I'm very confident in what they're doing and how they can bring in and train their officers. I think it's the safest route for our citizens to have them do that for us. I don't take this decision lightly. It's, obviously this department's been here for a long time. So, and I am not going to stand here or sit here and point any blame anywhere. We're not going to assess blame. I am not going to. We're going to move forward and assess the problem, fix the problem. So, I'm in favor. I like the idea of the leadership in the department. I would be in favor of moving towards entering an agreement or a contract with them to take over our services.
Thank you, Brian.
I'll go ahead and speak. I guess it's my turn. This is really hard. This is, like you said, Kevin, it's dropped on us, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago maybe, and this is a long-term decision that we're having to make in a short amount of time. And that's the hard part, because we sit here not knowing, knowing that we just don't have a police force anymore, and how do we turn that around in a short time for the safety of our citizens? And that's the biggest thing. How are we going to do that? And I don't know how. How we do that is with experience, and our experience lies with the sheriff's department right now. They have the leadership and they have the years of experience, so the new people coming in can lead that, where it's hard if you are turning over constantly new people constantly, and they're young and inexperienced and excited to get out there and get things done, but not having the knowledge yet. So I looked at that, and as we talked about this last night, it just seemed like, okay, what is it? The experience is in the sheriff's department at this time, and what does that mean? That means that they have the capacity to keep our citizens safe. One of the things that I questioned is, right now, our police force all these years has done 24-hour service. Are we still going to have that? Because that's important. That's important to the people here in Morris. And that is the big thing. Are we going to have the 24-hour service? And is the sheriff's department going to be able to get the staff? And they seem to be able to get staff, I wouldn't say fast, maybe faster, I don't know, but they seem to be able to retain their staff, where we haven't in law enforcement, in the police department. So it's like I said, it's hard. It's just not something that we wanted to deal with when I came on board, but that's what this job is now, and it's like, wow, this is where we're at. And so that's what I looked at most of all from the conversations that I've been involved in, is how are we gonna change this? We can't change it unless we have experienced officers, and we have experienced officers in the sheriff's department.
Thank you, Kevin. I just would like to point out that I see Chief Welly is here. Chief, this is not a vote against you or a non-support of you. You're our neighbors, you're our friend. You have served this community well, and you continue to serve this community well, and I appreciate that. This is, as a victim of circumstances, I guess, this is where we're at. And, you know, maybe, you know, hindsight's always 20/20. Could have we did something different? Yeah, maybe. But I just wanted to be sure that you and your staff, your current staff, are still okay. You know, I mean, you guys are, you have served Morris well, and I know you'll continue to serve Morris as long as you're asked to, and I appreciate that. I guess at this time, Sheriff Dingman, if you could come up to the microphone and just maybe a brief statement on how you would handle to bring the city of Morris under your umbrella, I'd appreciate that. First of all, I guess I certainly understand that should this be turned over to the sheriff's department, all of our current employees would be, I guess, offered or welcomed to apply for your department.
That is correct, yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yep. I don't have anything prepared. I'm kind of ad-libbing or off the cuff here, but Kevin, I completely understand where you're coming from on the history of it. I totally get that, and I appreciate that. And this was never anything that that I looked at as us taking over, and we weren't on the offensive on this one at all. And I think you guys all know that. It's you found yourself in a situation where you need our help, and we're willing to provide that to you. It's I can guarantee to the citizens of Morris that they're not going to see a blip on the radar as far as coverage when, like Councilmember Solvey said, when they pick up the phone and need help, it's going to be a brown uniform instead of a blue uniform. It's going to be a good product in the end, and I'll admit we're going to have some work to do to acquire the appropriate numbers of people that we need, but we're prepared for that. We have 7 of us right now, so that's going to help in that transition versus having 2 or 3 people right now. And delaying this, you mentioned that you don't want it to affect my office, and really delaying this is going to affect it more than anything, because we're already covering portions of the police department's schedule and some of their investigations without being able to add any more people at this point. So the current situation is stretching us thin, but if you guys were to enter into a contract with us, that would allow us to hire more people and get that coverage that everybody needs. So.
All right. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Any of the council have any specific questions for the sheriff?
Well, I just, I just want to play the devil's advocate here, Jason. I know you feel confident that you can hire people, and you had indicated to us last night that you're going to need to hire 6 people and 1 admin person. What if you can't? That's my concern. When I express that fear, that's my fear. That, you agreed to take on all of our services plus what you've already got, and you aren't able to hire, then what happens? That's my fear.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say that the first time we put an application out, we're gonna hire 6 people. We know this is gonna take some time, but like I said, we already have 7 of us. And and there's gonna be some struggles with scheduling, but we're already staffed more than the police department is. We're up, you know, we have that base established, so it's just gonna take some time to build that base up to the numbers that we need. If you choose to go with a contract with us, I'm prepared to hire whoever applies from the PD very soon. So let's just say, for example, we hire 2 people right now from the Morris Police Department, or as soon as we can. That leaves us with 4 that we need to fill yet. And we can do that over the course of the next few months and still have enough base coverage to handle the calls in the city of Morris and in the county.
Okay.
I think, just to make a comment towards that, I think just comments towards that, I don't feel too uneasy about that, because if the sheriff's department can't hire people, how could the city hire those people? So, I mean, we'd still be in the same predicament. And I would agree with the sheriff when he talks about the extra staff that he has. And I would say that I'm not sad about this. I'm excited that we can move forward, and we were gonna move forward with something into a new relationship. You know, I think that the services are gonna be just as good or better. I think that officers are gonna get a chance to, you know, just flourish in there. I'm excited for it. I'm not sad. I think it's something that we need to embrace, and we need to move forward and not look back. I think assessing blame is not something that I wanna move into. So, I mean, with that being said, I will make a motion to enter into an interim contract with the sheriff's department for our police services, and an interim leading into a long-term contract, I believe, after the first of the year, if I'm correct. Thank you.
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Just wanted to clarify, Mayor, that if I understand that correctly, then what that means is effective January 1st, the Morris Police Department, as we know it today, is gone.
I guess I would say that as of the signing of that contract, the Morris Police Department, as we know it, is gone. The interim contract. I think one thing that and I hear what you're saying and your concerns, and I agree with them, okay? But one thing that we certainly don't want to do, and I don't think we can, is hamper the Stevens County Sheriff's Department from building what they need, because we're still trying to get our stuff together.
Yeah,
You know, 'cause I'm not sure that Sheriff Dingman will be able to, well, I guess I don't know, but I'm not sure that the county commissioners would allow Sheriff Dingman to hire 6 people if it's a maybe. And those 6 people, I'm not sure would want to come aboard if it's a maybe. You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do, and of course, in my statement, I alluded to that fact that, and I know Jason probably isn't real crazy about a temporary relationship just for the reason you just mentioned. So I get that part. It's just, the finality of it is just weighing pretty heavy on my mind, and that's what I'm struggling with.
Right.
To be honest, and Brian, I wished I shared your enthusiasm, but I don't.
I spoke with a local businessman, a new businessman, and he voiced his concern with going to the sheriff's department versus a police department. He said, if you lose your police department or you vote to not have your police department, that's going to be gone for at least 7 years. Now, I'm not sure where that number comes from, and I'm not sure, but I think Kim mentioned last night that some people sitting in these chairs in sometime in the future, when that contract comes up for renewal, they could say, well, you know what, let's get that, let's do it. Let's get a chief and get our police department back together And, you know, I'm not sure that they ever will, but it could happen, you know.
Be a big undertaking. if
It would be a huge undertaking, once we go forward with the contract. I guess Brian, thank you for, your optimism and your excitement for this. I share that, though I am still in the grieving phase about, the police department, so. But I think the city of Morris and the constituents of our city, hopefully will notice a relatively seamless switch over to the Stevens County Sheriff's Department.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't see it as our losing our department. I see it as our department being reshaped as being, the city is also a member of the county. I'm a resident of the city of Morris, but I'm also a resident of Stevens County. So they're also my sheriff's department. As long as, just like everybody else in the county. So I don't see it like that. I want to see it as this is now going to be our law enforcement community, them, and
Right.
taking over, or just basically doing their jobs, which they've been doing very well. And I'm very confident that everybody in Morris is going to be happy with it. And I think that everybody in Morris should be not worried about it. You're not going to see, we're not going to have an uprising. We're not going to have any problems. It's going to go very well. People are going to be very surprised at how well this goes. That's what I see. I'm very optimistic.
Thank you. City Manager Blaine or County Attorney, City Attorney, Aaron, do you have anything to add before we bring this to the vote?
Well, I just think from a technical aspect, the next step will be getting that interim contract, the details of that figured out. There'll probably be a meeting of the Joint Commission to figure out the exact details of the services that the city wants, and once that contract's ready, you'll probably see it in the next meeting, I would think.
Okay.
And then after that's signed, then you go into negotiations for the long term.
So that's how you see it, the Joint Commission will meet and kind of hash out this interim, and then
Correct.
probably within the time of our next meeting.
Correct. And just, I know from the county's perspective, it works out better for the books that the police department will actually, at least on paper, exist through the end of the year. Because there will need to be a time where they transfer cases, assets, and someone needs to remain in that position at least until the end of the year.
In the position of the police department.
Correct.
Okay.
Or at least the department itself would be not closed out until the end of the year.
Right.
Yeah, the budget for the police department, the books for the police department will be there for sure till the end of the year, because that's when we get audited on it. But I agree with Aaron, the next step is for us to get together and talk about what that service agreement's gonna look like, because that'll dictate the services that they're gonna provide for us and the funding that we're gonna provide to them. And then there's some other issues that have to be dealt with. We have the equipment that's going to be needed by law enforcement, and we can work out all those arrangements for how that work. And it's not an uncommon thing, so we're not dealing with something that's brand new from scratch. We've actually looked at other agreements from other communities like us that have service agreements with the sheriff's department. It's not an uncommon thing to have that arrangement. So, but I really think we need to do that work here really quick and then bring it back to the city council so you can look at that, see what it looks like, and then that'll give the resources that are needed by the sheriff's department to be able to do what they have to do now.
Okay, thank you. I guess I would like to point out that this is definitely not a money issue. This is not a funding issue. It's not a money savings measure for the city. it's not a overall burden to the county. I think in the end, this will wash itself out as far as the funding anyway. And I don't know what that's all, what that's all gonna look like, but, okay, final discussion.
Our action still, if we decide to move forward with this, needs to be okayed by the county. So we're still, it's a step, and then once if we do, gets presented to the county commissioners to act on it, and then we need to take action to try to figure it out. But that also needs to happen before it would become official.
Very true. How does that fit in within your schedule, Aaron?
Yeah, so I suppose the next meeting of the commissioners will come before the next meeting of the city, so hopefully we can get them something to consider. Hopefully that joint commission can meet, hammer out some details, get them something for their next meeting.
Should we, after we call the vote on this question, should we set a date for the, recommended date for the joint commission? And then that could be forwarded to the rest of the joint commission?
I think probably,
I think, you know, I'd get a hold of Rebecca
That's
Young,
what's
and then we can
supposed
figure out when we wanna do that, and then
Okay.
we can contact our
So we don't need a
our
motion, or
members.
we don't
No,
need to set that
I
up?
don't think so.
Okay, as long as that gets.
Because I know this is it's a major priority for them. You know,
Oh,
so
yeah.
this is definitely gonna be something that they're gonna wanna act on as soon as they possibly can.
Yeah, and I know, in talks with Sheriff Dingman, that Chief Welly and him have been working diligently about how this is gonna work, trying to put stuff together. And I appreciate that, Reggie. And I expected, that's expected that you would work with Jason, so. So this isn't gonna be something like, oh my God, now I gotta figure this out. I mean, that's, some of that groundwork's already been done.
Yeah.
Okay, final discussion. I'd like a roll call vote on that, please.
Councilmember Waller,
No.
Selby,
yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Ellingson,
Yes.
Mayor Dees.
Yes. And thank you all for supporting this and coming together on this. Okay.
Maybe if you came just for that discussion, you don't want to sit through the whole meeting, you're free to get up and leave. It will not offend us.
Jason, before you leave.
Or you're welcome to
Mayor,
stay.
can I just I just want to make a statement to Jason. First of all, my vote didn't reflect any of my confidence in you. I just want you to understand that. I'm just struggling, trying to erase 140 years of history. That's the reason why I voted the way I did, so hopefully I can share Brian's and everybody else's enthusiasm. It's just probably gonna take me a little longer.
We'll get you there.
All right. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Sheriff.
you, Reggie.
It actually worked out fast, didn't it?
Okay, we have reading and,
You know, it's a big decision.
we have no public hearings. We have reading and approval of minutes from 6:28.
I'll move approval of the regular minutes for June 28th.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And we have the condensed version of the 6:28 minutes.
I'll move approval of the condensed version of the 6:28 minutes.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I just like to say, I don't like to miss meetings, but I'm glad that it's in the hands that it is. You guys did a great job, and I watched it twice, and it's, I'm just glad, and Blaine, I'm glad that that's on YouTube as soon as we can get it there, and people can stay informed. Okay, we have the consent agenda consisting of the audit of city bills, gambling reports, transit report, pay estimate for runway reconstruction project, and the added application for exempt permit for the MDHA. I will move approval of the items on the consent agenda.
I will second.
Any discussion on any of the items on the consent agenda?
Line item 63, 2022 Ford Explorer for the police department to purchase. If we're going to be dissolving our police department, do we still need to make this purchase, or can we back out of this purchase?
We already made the purchase, that was part of the budget.
Okay, I assumed that it was, but I just thought worthwhile to ask that if it's been made and it's a done deal, we'll just figure it out. But if there was any way to back out, and I know with the problem getting police cars, that it seems like they've been backed up and behind, that it would probably be a chance for us to not make that purchase. But if it's already been done, it's done.
Do we have the vehicle?
Yeah, it's here. Yeah, it came in already.
I would imagine you could
We-
turn around and resell that pretty quick.
Well, but we're gonna have a discussion about what's gonna happen with equipment needs and stuff like that. And, like you said, it's very difficult getting vehicles, so realistically, there'll be a discussion about, who's responsible for equipping all the law enforcement, as well as office space and all the other things that go with that.
Yeah. That's a good question, though. Any other comments or questions on any of the items on the consent agenda? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Petitions, requests, and communications. We have a Metal Arts Festival advertising request.
Yeah, and I forwarded this to you because it was sent to me to give to the city council and to the tourism board. And actually, I talked to Liz about this, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna have them visit with the tourism board. So that's where they're gonna come and make their request, and that'll be on the agenda, and I'll invite them to that meeting so that they can talk to the tourism board about that.
Okay.
And I did talk to her too as well, Blaine,
Yep.
so. I mean, I think it's an exciting event, really, for the most part. It just, the only, I thought, gray area for me, it's certainly worthy. I think it fits a lot of the parameters that we use to determine whether, how we're gonna spend tourism money with marketing and so forth. But I think this is a fundraising event for them, and I just don't know how that part works, Blaine, if because they're actually gonna, make money on this, if that affects how that works or not. That was the one thing I was gonna ask you, if that affects that or not.
Yeah, there's actually another request that's gonna come to the tourism board that kind of falls into that same category, and basically, we take money through the taxes to spend on marketing and promotion. We don't take money to give to other people to do their events and activities. That's the way it works. And we don't have a convention and visitors bureau, and in the past, anybody that's been around, we've had this conversation about, because for a while we were giving money to the chamber to do promotion and marketing and all that, and there were some things that happened with that arrangement didn't work out. But we'll have that discussion in the tourism board meeting about that. But realistically, we're allowed to spend money on activities that we do and those kind of things. But to give money to other organizations, other individuals, for what they're doing, then that does wind up crossing a line that we have to be very careful, especially if they're gonna make money on it. Rock the Grounds was a good example of that. You know, that was a fundraiser for them, and then, you know, what's the city participating in a fundraiser for another organization
Right.
for? And so you just have to be very careful with that.
This is a standalone event though, it's
It's the
not,
first annual, this is the first time they've done this, and, they're looking to draw people from 100+ miles out. They've already had quite a few artists, indicate that they're willing to come, and they're planning entertainment and all that kind of good stuff. So I think, it's a good thing for the community. It's gonna draw people to Morris, and hopefully they'll support our hotels and our bars and restaurants and things. But, again, it gets to be kind of dicey when you're talking about a for-profit event. That's the only thing I'm struggling with.
but it is a standalone. That's the only event that will be going on at the
Yep.
fairgrounds
Yep.
that weekend. It's not associated with any,
Right,
okay, that's,
that's my understanding.
that
of
was,
it,
if I somehow could figure that it was mixed in with some other event or festival that's going on, would make more sense, but just a standalone for a sole, yeah, thank you.
Where is all of that, the tours or the dollars spent, where is that located so a person could find it? Because I hear the marketing promotion, I hear that, but then the next breath, we just spent how much dollars for fireworks? And I'm not sure how that,
It's the one event.
so
That's our event. So
so
we're,
that's different if it's our event, we
Right.
can spend as much money as
so we co-sponsor that event as a community event, and because
But why do we co-sponsor just that one?
because it's a community event. It's a community
Well,
event.
like
It's-
Crazy Days is a community event.
No, that's a chamber event. That's not a community event. And then partly it went back to, it was at Eastside Park. And so because that community event's at Eastside Park, we're co-sponsoring it. Now our liability insurance covers all the people that are gonna be on that piece of ground. And then, our people are providing all kinds of services to that community event, whether it's Public Works, putting up, barricades, all those kind of things that go with it. And then they moved it all to the fairgrounds, so now they have to work with the fairgrounds people because that's their property, and our liability insurance won't cover that. But for instance, like this community event, we're gonna get the parade permit. We have insurance, because now the state of Minnesota requires anybody that's gonna have a parade on a public highway, you have to have insurance, provide insurance. And so the university, the school, the city, we all have insurance that would cover a parade that's sponsored by us, but then we're not gonna sponsor every parade that comes along. So it's been an ongoing discussion over the years as to what we participate. It's the one gray area where we're actually spending money on physical things as opposed to promotion. With regards to like this metal arts festival, we're gonna promote it. So we have a promotion company that's gonna put together all kinds of promotions for it. So that is something that we would do. We promote all these events, but we're the ones that are doing the promotion. We're paying directly to the promotion.
Yeah, I understand the promoting part of it. It's
Yep.
using the dollars for the tourism dollars for the promoting. It's just so if the chamber didn't sponsor something, then it would be fine. Like they quit sponsoring this, so they used to be the sponsors for Prairie, whatever. Sorry, words are
Prairie
gone.
Pioneer Days,
Yeah.
yeah.
And now
So-
that they're not, now because it's somebody else sponsoring it and we're the city, we can.
No, because if the chamber sponsored it, we were co-sponsors with them. When Heartland decided to sponsor it, we weren't gonna be part of it. But then it turned out to be a community-wide event. It's not a Heartland Motors event. It's not, they're.
So again, as long as it's not a person's or a business's event, or the chamber is considered a business?
Well, the chamber, so there's a difference, and we've had these discussions over. The chamber, and it falls back into tourism. So Crazy Days is not tourism. Having one little event in town you know, is not tourism. Community event's gonna draw people in from all kinds of places to be here for it. The fair is a good activity that we promote, but at the same time, we don't specifically sponsor any part of what's happening in the fair, because they take care of all that. So realistically, it's, you know, for us in the finance world and the city world, it's like, where's the money coming from? That's pretty clear, but who are we giving the money to another person to give the money to another person? In this case, it's like they're asking for money to promote. So we would give money to them and then they would spend it on promotion. Well, that doesn't make any sense because we do promotion. But you know, the other one that we're gonna be talking about in the tourism, are we gonna be buying the prizes that are gonna be given away for somebody else's event? You know, and it's like, no, we shouldn't. They should go out and they should find somebody to sponsor the prizes for that event. But that one actually falls on the same time frame as the community event. So then it's like, who is sponsoring that activity? Because it's not.
Well, and that's why I asked for a right, because this seems to be really gray, and it's evolved over the years because I was on that tourism board.
Yeah.
And it seems to, like, well, now we're gonna do this, and now this is the way it's gotta be. And that, like I said, it's fine, but somewhere it's gotta, I'd like to see how that works, because it's kind of like, well, now it's a city-sponsored event, so we can put money towards it. Well, no, this isn't a city-sponsored event. Well, now it's within the city-sponsored event, but we can't still put money toward it. Anyway, it used to be that if we were gonna promote things and there was help, and we weren't gonna give money if there were, you know, if they brought people beds to heads was always
Right.
what the big term was. So then we have, you know, we have tournaments that happen where our hotels are filled up. We do nothing with those. That isn't, nobody's getting, well, some people are getting concession money, but I don't even know if we promote those. Or we have all kinds of tournaments coming on. We have, whether it's a sporting event or an arts event, or here we have this event. So I get where you're not gonna give people money to promote it
Right.
when that's what we're doing. But anyway, I just think there's still a lot of gray area that seems to be like, I'm confused on it. And
Right.
so if someone were to go to the tourism board and this time it's like, no, and then they see somewhere else where we just spent this money.
Well, I've been
on
here
this.
since 2007. There's only been one event that was considered a community event, because it was the community event, the annual community festival. And that's it. That's the only one that's ever been, you know, but then we did some things that were outside of that. You know, like we paid for entertainment in East Side Park, but that was,
Christian rock concert.
but that was during the community event.
Well, so, yeah, that's what I mean, and so if you have somebody now requesting something for the community event, anyway, we don't have to spend a lot of
Yeah,
time,
but
because it's gonna come
it
up,
is a
but
gray area.
it's a very gray area, and I guess when it's gray areas, you wanna see how, I just don't want there to be like, well, how come this is this way for this and not for that way, and there are some things that are clear, the promoting part of it and the marketing part, but
Well, you know, Kim, to your point, what I hear from people, when you see $250,000 sitting there not being used, people are asking me, why do we have that much money and why can't we use it? And I tell them, the answer to that is, you maybe want to talk to your legislature, because they're the ones that mandate how that money is supposed to be spent with our taxes. So really, until something in that end of it changes, Blaine is exactly right. You have to live within the parameters of what, you know, how we can use it.
well, and that's why I said, I think people just like to see those parameters, myself
right.
included. What are the parameters? Are they, where are
That's
they
gonna be a
written? Where can we
legislative
see
action,
them?
I think, is how that's gonna work.
Yeah, the law is pretty clear, you know, as far as, it's very short, it's not a very long, but, you know, it talks about, you know, the ability of us to collect up to 3% to be used for, actually, it talks about a convention center, we don't have one. So, you know, tourism promotion and a convention center. And then it breaks down just a little bit farther from that. And just one other quick note, just if anybody's been to the Twin Cities and you pay a lodging tax, you know it's paying for facilities and all kinds of stuff, but that's special legislation that they got to be able to do that stuff with their lodging tax money. You know, and the bigger cities have different rules than the smaller cities.
And I wonder, do we have written rules for the tourism? Like a written,
Well, there's a written
There's
guide that
It's
we,
in our charter, there's a, like Blaine said, there's a paragraph in there.
yeah, it's for, it follows what the state statute says. It's a very short little
Yep.
deal, but I
It's in
can provide you that. And then we put together, back when Gene was here, you know, Gene Kershell, we put together like a little guide as to, you know, what to consider. That included even, you know, what is a tourist, what is tourism, what is promotion and marketing, what does that mean? And actually in that guide, it talks about, at the time, we're talking about a 50-mile radius. So it'd be anything outside of a 50-mile radius, just to give some guidance as to, you know, what we're looking at. And we can share all that with you.
Yeah, please do. I think that might help a little bit.
Yes, it would.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is mainly information for the council.
Yeah, they wanted you to have a copy of that letter, and I just wanted to give you a little
Okay.
bit of guidance on it before.
So we may or may not see this again.
Yeah, you may or may not.
Right.
And I didn't know if they're gonna be here or not, you know, because they didn't indicate
Okay,
what they were gonna do.
thank you. Ordinances and resolutions. We have a resolution appointing judges for the state primary election on August 9th.
I will move approval of that resolution.
I'll second that.
And I'd just like to comment that I really appreciate people stepping forward to be election judges. So it's they get paid a little bit, but it's a little bit. So they're taking some time out of their life for this.
I
Well,
see Sydney Bauer is one of the leaders, I guess, of one of the precincts.
Is that what it is?
Sydney Bauer, yeah, she's in, I think it's, I can't remember which one I was looking here for. You
Chief
got
Judge
it?
for the National Guard Army.
Right, yeah, she's the
Yeah,
precinct.
and I would just add, you know, Sandy did this for how many years? Sandy had to take, so this was the first time that Stacy had to take this task on, and she did a fabulous job of coordinating, actually, a couple of the, was Trig in there? Yeah, two of the people that we have, our Green Corps person and our new sustainability coordinator got tapped right away because they're right down the hall, and so they agreed to be judges too, so that worked out really good.
Now, Blaine, I see there's chief judges in every one of the three precincts. Do they get together with you to help tabulate all these votes, or are they participate? Where does their participation start and stop?
They're responsible, the chief judges are responsible for that polling place from start to finish. So when the end of the day comes, what they do is they do all the paperwork to tabulate all the results of that election, and they bring that stuff up to the courthouse, and then they're done. So
Okay.
they're responsible for that polling place.
Okay,
And then the other thing, just as a side note, Stacy and myself and a couple other people are part of what's called the absentee ballot board. And so then we, you know, I work as election judge. I've been doing it since 1980, I think 81 being election judge. So then I actually go up to the county and help them take care of all the absentee ballots. City of Morris is the only place in the county that has ballots that are tabulated at a polling place and absentee ballots, because everybody else is mailed-in ballots. But, so that's one of the things that I do with the county, and then we have to, it's already started, where the ballot board has started reviewing ballot envelopes that came in to make sure that they were done the right way.
Is absentee and mail-in ballots different?
Two different things, yep.
Oh.
A mailed-in ballot goes directly to the home, you fill it out, you put it in the envelope, you send it back, and then
And
it's
that's handled some other way?
That's handled a completely different way. Absentee ballots are, you have to apply for an absentee ballot, and there's no reason that you have to give to do it. And then we actually encourage people to do that, you know. if you don't wanna worry about going to a polling place, just ask for an absentee ballot and you fill it out and you send it in. And then, it's gonna be much easier this year because we only have 3 polling places, 3 precincts. And so the paperwork is gonna be a lot less for us. There's
How
only
does
3
the-
ballots.
How does the identification issue work its way through on absentee ballots? I mean, does they have to prove proof of citizenship or anything, or they just get a
There's,
ballot? and
when
send
you
it in?
apply for an absentee ballot, then there's the process that you have to go through to be able to get one. That's where the verification goes.
So you have to apply in person?
Yes.
Yep,
No, not in
online.
person, online. So
Online.
like
Online,
college
but then
kids
you
will.
have
But
to
the-
submit
Yep.
some sort
But
of,
the identification stuff that you use for that application will need to be the same as when you turn that ballot
okay,
in, as I remember.
Yeah, and then when you, so you fill out your ballot at home and then you put it in your ballot envelope, but then when you pull it in the mailer to go back to the county, you have to have somebody witness that you're the one that did that. And then, you know, I don't wanna get into
well, no, I'm just,
detail, but,
yeah, it doesn't.
but there is a verification process, and then the ballot, what we do on the ballot board is we actually take those and then we look to make sure that everything was done the right way. If it wasn't, then we reject them, and then it goes back to the auditor, and the auditor has to mail information back out to the voter that their ballot was rejected, and that ballot is no good anymore, and they send them a new one. And then typically it's between the social security number and the driver's license, or they didn't have a witness sign.
So, yeah, not to belittle this, whatever, extend it. Absentee ballots are only for Morris,
For Morris, that's it.
because everybody else gets mailed ballots.
Everybody else gets mailed ballots.
So, okay, all right. Okay, so we have a resolution. I will move on the resolution appointing judges for the state primary election.
I think that was-
I'll second.
We didn't do that before, did we?
There's,
we did.
yeah, we
I
did.
thought we
So
did.
Jeff and
Oh,
Brian.
we did, okay, sorry.
Okay, double dip.
There was a lot of discussion there. Any other discussion? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote on the resolution, please.
Councilmember Selby,
Yes.
Wallers,
Yes,
Phillipson,
Yes,
Miller,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes. We have resolution authorizing the purchase and placement of a new fuel pump for the 100 LL tank.
Low lead tank
Low
out
lead.
at the airport. I think I lied to you last time. I said we're done with the airport, but we actually met with Westmore out at the airport, and I actually took a couple pictures in black and white. It's a little bit harder to see, but so the 100 low lead 10,000 gallon tank is underground behind the pump that you see in the pictures here. And so what we're gonna get from Westmore is we're gonna get a brand new above ground pump, and we're actually gonna move it over closer to the Jet A tank that's a little bit farther to the east. But you can see even the light pole is tipped from all the concrete that's heaving up out there. And we realized that that didn't make any sense to keep this old setup and then put it with this new tank that we're gonna be putting in there. And so we did get a quote from Westmore to replace that tank, that pump for that 100 low lead tank, and that's the request that I have in front of you. And then we'll be done. There shouldn't be anything else.
hopefully.
But it's gonna be, actually, one of the questions that came up today, I think, was there's still people buying fuel out of that 100 low lead tank, but there's no airplanes out at the airport. And what happens is every once in a while, somebody will sneak out there to buy 100 low lead gasoline. Works very well in small engines and very well in high performance cars and
Like race
stuff like
cars and
that,
stuff?
like race cars. But technically, you're not supposed to be buying that aircraft fuel it's for aircraft use. But we still see purchases coming through on that, but we don't know who they are. Usually they'll slide in and grab 5 gallons of it.
Gotta go racing tonight.
Yep.
Well, it'd be nice to have everything new and updated, as long as the airport's getting the good old overhaul. So I'll move on that resolution authorizing the purchase and placement of a new fuel pump for the 100 LL tank.
One second.
Any further discussion? We'll have roll call vote on the resolution, please.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Gullikson,
Yes,
Waller,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
Fairby,
Yes. And we have a resolution approving a 5-year master partnership agreement with MinDOT for 22 to 27.
Yeah, and this is something we've done in the past. Basically, MinDOT requires us to have this master agreement so that if and when a time comes that they want to do a certain thing for us or we do a certain thing for them, that they can do it within this agreement. The best example I have of that is in the wintertime, we help plow snow on Main Street. You know, and so that's part of a separate contract that we have with them, but in order to do that, we have to have a master agreement. So it's just MinDOT paperwork is what it is.
Yeah, but then we don't have to, that contract for plowing snow doesn't have to come back here.
It doesn't,
And-
well, it might have to come back here, but it's still, it's just, they have different levels of
Yeah,
things that they need this master one, and then the people underneath, the different departments underneath, can work within that master agreement to do other side agreements and stuff. And I don't know, we really don't have a contract for storing salt with MinDOT, but we store our salt with MinDOT. You know, I think that's just.
our salt is out there. Our salt is out at MinDOT.
Yeah, our salt for our city streets is co-located with MinDOT's.
Did they put a new roof on that building?
I don't know if it got up or not. It was damaged in the
Windstorm.
storm, I know that.
So basically, it's replacing an existing agreement. No major changes.
None, yeah, none. It's just renewing it. And they do 5-year agreements on this one.
I will move the resolution approving a 5-year master partnership agreement with MinDOT for 2022 through 2027.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? We'll have roll call vote on the resolution, please.
Councilmember Gullikson,
Yes,
Miller,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
Waller,
Yes.
Fairby,
Yes. City managers report and recommendations.
Two things I would just note, and then answer any questions you might have. One of them is I put on your, on the table a letter that went out to all the property owners in the project area. If you go over on 6th Street and Columbia Avenue, you're gonna see that a bunch of signs started showing up, and actually Joe Riley Construction's gonna use the old elementary school property to stockpile their materials for the construction project. They're still the owner of that property, and there's a signboard up there with all their required postings and all that kind of stuff, and a little mailbox for people to drop off messages. But we started doing this a few years ago to just, number one, let people know that your project's gonna start, and then the other thing is just to give them some information about specific things, the name of the inspectors in there, his phone number. Thursday mornings, we'll have a meeting up on the site up there on top of the hill. If somebody wants to stop by and talk to the inspector about something in the project, you can do that, and just give them some basic information. This year, one of the things that we had to add to it was we now have a requirement that's being placed upon us as a city to identify lead pipes. And we're gonna actually have to survey the community to find out if people have lead pipes going into their houses. And so what we're gonna do during the construction project is when we find property that has a lead service line, we're gonna give them a notice right away that you have a lead service line. We recommend that you get it replaced. You know, it's a hazard to your health, all those kind of things. We don't have any authority to replace them and to charge the people, but it's the first step in that next process of making sure that people don't have lead service lines coming into their property. And then there's just a couple other things in there. We encourage people to water their grass on their boulevards and mow. You know, the contractor is responsible for making sure that the grass starts, but you can help yourself by helping that. That's what I would do if I was a property owner. That's what I tell other people. I would definitely, you know, make sure my grass got taken care of and not wait for the next year to get it redone.
Anytime you can give people a heads up on what's gonna happen and what's going on, I think that's just super helpful, so nicely
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, and we would have normally done it earlier, but this project is starting later and we'd like to see it start. And we just had the pre-construction meeting on it on Friday, so.
Well, too early and people forget. I
Yeah.
mean, now all the
Well,
stuff
that's-
is out
yeah,
there and
that's
the
a-
equipment,
That's a
so-
good point too.
Yep.
Yeah, so that one, and then the other thing is, we are what's called a MS4 stormwater permit holder with the state of Minnesota and through MPCA, and we were audited. It was about a 2.5 hour audit that we went through, and one of the most important thing about that, and we'll get a notice from them as to what the deficiencies are for the city, because there are gonna be a few deficiencies, and primarily in the areas of public notice and stuff like that. But somebody that mows their grass into the street, it's considered an illicit discharge into the stormwater system. And it's our responsibility as a city to identify that and give notice to the property owners that they're doing something illegal. And it's not just the city saying you're doing something we don't like. It's something that we have a permit from the state of Minnesota that requires us to do all this stuff. Same way, actually, pet waste was one of them that came up. If you got somebody that doesn't clean up their yard and they have lots of pet waste and we get a heavy rain and it washes into the storm sewer system, it's considered illicit discharge. But the rules and regulations are really onerous, and we are using Bolton and Mink engineers to assist us. They actually have somebody that came out of the state of Minnesota and knows and understands all this stuff, and she really took the lead during our audit to make sure that all the information that we needed was there and provided to them. But you're gonna hear a little bit more about this, because we have to do a better job of trying to document the things that we're doing. We are doing almost everything we need to, but we have to reach out to the public more. Just one quick example, when the county does their hazardous waste collection in Morris, that's actually considered public education about hazardous waste, and we get credit for them doing that for us. And we, you know, one of the things we shared with MPCA was their flyer. So that is the only thing they want to know now is how many people came through there. And so I'm trying to get that information from Bill Kleindahl, but there's other things that we can do in social media and providing, actually, any time that I identified something in a city manager newsletter like this, the next day, usually at the radio station, we would talk about it. And that's one of the things that we shared with MPCA as far as how are we educating the public. So there's a lot of stuff that goes with that. And then I would just leave everything else to any questions you might have.
Any questions or comments on the city manager report?
News travels fast. Your New York Times article about our green energy in Morse. When I was in Bonn, Germany, week and a half ago, July 1st, I had lunch with Guido, who travels back and forth on our sister city projects, but I had lunch at his house, some pie and a cold beer. It was very good, both. But he messaged me 2 hours later that he'd just gotten a message from Mike Reese out on the Hill about the article in the New York Times. So what we're doing here with our green energy, our solar, people are noticing. I mean, it's sort of neat that what we're doing here, people do pay attention and it travels around. So I just would hopefully see more of information on that for our community, our citizens. I've had people asking me about residents going with green energy solar panels, just access points for them to get information.
Yeah, very good. Anything else? Okay, we have 2023 budget guidance recommendation.
Yeah, and I don't know if you had a chance to go through it, if you had any questions. There's a couple different things that are in here that are a little bit different. Obviously, we know pretty much where we're at with all of our funding except and the big ticket things, you know, like wages and stuff like that. The only thing we typically wait on is probably in September, October, we'll find out what our insurance renewal is gonna be for group health insurance, because that's a big cost for us in personnel issues. There's some, you know, as I was doing this, you know, I look back at some of the old guidance, and during the COVID period, you know, there's a lot of iffy things that were going on. You know, so we're kind of back to normal with how we're doing things. The state of Minnesota's flush with money. What they're gonna do with it, we have no idea, but we are locked in for local government aid for next year. And I would guess that there'd be an opportunity to, depending on what happens in the fall election, to maybe get a little bit more money out of that, but we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. But there's a couple other things in here that are maybe a little bit out of the ordinary, and one I would just, I'm just throwing it in here. You can talk about it, but I actually went back and took a look, but I'm recommending that we take a look at adding one more public works employee to help with maintenance, and actually I'll talk about it when we get into our budget work session. But back in 2009, we eliminated one full-time employee, and then we shifted up that money to part-time help, and then it was never ever really used, because it's really hard to find that many part-time people that can come in and work, and especially if you're looking for somebody with a CDL license that could plow snow in the wintertime or you know, drive truck in the summertime. And so it kind of got eaten up by the budget as we're going along, and then it got shifted out, I think, in 2015, where we were actually down one person, and it was never really identified, and it probably should have been. Other than that, one of the things that I think we need to do, we've talked about this for a couple of years, and that's the bathroom facility at Wells Park. And I think the next step is to have a preliminary design and cost estimate done by an architect. You know, it doesn't have to be a lot of money. We did one for the bus garage. We hired an architect to do a preliminary design, a preliminary cost estimate. And then one of the things that we can do, I know WSN does this, but we can maybe look at some kind of outdoor rec grant. That's how we did Pomni Terre Park, to maybe try to build a facility for Wells Park. And actually, I'm working on an issue right now with the green tea hanger at the airport, because it had 3 doors damaged. The insurance covered it, but that building is terrible for the same reason that the fuel pump was terrible. The ground is heaving. If you've ever got a chance to go out there and take a look at that, all the concrete is heaving up in different places and stuff. And I talked to Mike Jacobson about the possibility of lifting that building up and putting a new slab underneath it, because that is possible. If we wanted to replace that building, somebody would be interested in the building, buying it and moving it, I think, just because the building's in fairly good shape. It's just that it doesn't have a level foundation because of the ground shifting. But it's kind of the same thing. We're gonna try to get a quote from a company that does that kind of work. Otherwise, it could be that we have to take a look at, you know, the possibility of designing a project with an architect or something. I don't know.
It is used as it currently is though, I mean, the T hangar, there's
It,
people looking to rent that.
it's used less and less because people do not like it. I mean, literally, one of the flyers put in like a wooden extension to just get the door to close all the way.
But if we have a decent concrete
Yeah, I think,
base that there is.
yeah, I think there's,
Demand for.
yep. There's actually,
Smaller.
it's kind of interesting, there's some new young flyers, there's a new, pilot trainer that's working with some young flyers out of the Morris Airport. You know, so I think there's the potential for that next generation of people that wanna maybe be part of a club or, get their own airplanes to be able to fly. We're seeing a little bit of that, but, and then I don't know if there's anything else I wanna specifically identify. We talked about trees, we need to put more money in to do maintenance of trees, to get our tree stock started the right way, you know, and so that's one of the things I'll be taking a look at. And then, like, in the end, you know, I think we're looking at, you know, kind of a standard 3% increase maybe in December. We do have a bond issue that we have to pick up. But general levy, I think with what's going on with local government aid and everything that we're doing, and then obviously we just, you know, talked about a police department that we'll have to take a look at how we're gonna transition from what we're doing now to the service contract. And we do have service contracts for space in the law enforcement center and dealing with some communication. So I don't know if there's any questions you might have on anything else you see in here.
Think of, I was thinking about, you know, we're gonna, the Wells project with the bathrooms. How about the ones out at the Eagles Park? How are they out there?
Those are decent.
They're pretty
I
good?
think they're
I haven't
pretty
been out
good.
there for a
Yeah, I
long
think-
time.
Yeah, they're,
I think they're pretty
Yeah.
good.
they
I think
keep
they-
them super, I mean, they're always super
Yeah.
clean and in working condition, so, yeah. they're-
I mean, I think it's just important that these ball
Yes.
fields and these parks have these good facilities, because we do have a lot of games going on all the time. And the summer is just packed, and if we're hosting out there to these events, I mean, that brings a lot of business into town for people, and also it's just a good, you know, it's just a good community. We're well known around the area for having kids that come here and play and stuff. So it's just important to me that we make sure that we have facilities that people can use, and we're proud of those facilities, so.
And then, you know, department heads will, you know, start putting together their requests, you know, what they would like to see in the park board. We did the tour, and, you know, I mentioned in here, you know, Green River Park, because we talked about maybe a basketball court and pickleball courts, and versus doing just the tennis courts and some other stuff. But we'll look at all that stuff and put together something to bring back to you.
We talked a while back about looking at some funding through the state to doing the East 7th Street.
Yep.
Out past, have we found any more information or still working with?
Jeff's working on that. I
WSN.
don't know that the state and federal government are so slow at getting their funding stuff put together. I mean, it's really kind of a struggle. You know, and then the state of Minnesota didn't jump on to some of this other funding that they coulda, because they couldn't agree on their stuff. You know, but we're still kind of waiting to see if stuff trickles down from the feds on road projects, because they put a lot of money on the table. It's just that we haven't seen it come down yet. But that's, you know, and you know, we've talked about it before. What would that project look like? You know, there's a definite need to try to bring water and sewer and link it over and bring it over to the hillside addition, and at the same time, you know, probably bring a bike path over there so the people that are in that neighborhood can get out of there and come across the highway in a decent way like we do on the south side of town. So, you know, it's one of those things that maybe the best way to deal with that is to have somebody draw up a project. But I know Jeff has been working on the pots of money that are sitting out there right now to try to figure out what's available to us.
Thank you.
One last thing that just, when you said that in the bike path, was there talk once about running a bike path all the way to the golf course, or was that just a?
Yeah, they applied for a grant to do that and it got turned down.
Oh, okay.
But I think when they built that that bridge going over the Palmdale River
Yep.
has a siding on
Yep.
it
Yep.
to facilitate that in the future.
So it might be
So
something else. to
could-
look
yeah.
at then.
But it's the kind of stuff that you gotta keep watching for that
Yeah.
funding that comes up, and it's amazing sometimes what you actually see get funded in other places, but
Well, and now with more houses going out in that addition by the golf
Yeah.
course, it might be better, to get to the golf.
well, and we still, I haven't heard back, like I said, I know they're way behind on a lot of their stuff. We're actually pretty nervous about the pay estimate that you guys just approved for the airport project, because that's a huge chunk of money, and, we have to kind of stay on the state to get our reimbursements coming back through in a timely manner, because we don't have a lot of money to cash flow big projects. But one of the projects that we put in a request for was to put a sidewalk in from the Dairy Queen all the way out past Jerry's Youth Save, looping around to the bike path. And as far as I know, that's still in the works with MnDOT, because they actually like that project, and then we'd have to do a few connections off of that. But, as I just actually had a request came out asking me about 7th Street, and there's something going on with, I think it's the property where the seal coating person is, and MnDOT wanted to know if we had any interest whatsoever in any future projects out there. And so I went back to him and said, yes, we're looking at bringing water and sewer down that road, and then ideally we'd like to have a bike path put down there and then brought across, maybe behind the where the trailer park is, across to the hillside addition. Well, now they know, and so they're bringing that back to their people so that they know and understand what's going on with that. But as we're doing that, as I'm writing that, I'm thinking, we've never talked about a bike path coming down the bypass. And that might be, because you see people walking on the bypass, going to different places, and maybe it'd be nice to have a bike path that goes from 7th Street, or getting into the neighborhood there, coming back across, stopping, connecting up to the university, coming back to Green River, connecting up to Green River, and then looping around. So those are things that pop up from time to time, because they kind of changed how they do bike paths now, and they're not necessarily part of a road project. They have a separate way of dealing with them. So I think, those things we have to always be watching for them, because people use them a lot. I mean, it's really a nice way to get people off the road and get them out exercising and doing all those kind of things. So I'm just looking for a motion to approve the budget guidance. Doesn't mean anything other than this is what we'll be working off until we get together with you, and committees, department heads, everybody will be working on their budgets.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023 city manager budget guidance.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I have a question. Where does the Life Flight helicopter land now that the airport is closed?
School parking lot? I heard it one night at like 3 a.m. That's how I know that one night.
I'm
it
closer
did.
than you. It depends
Yeah,
on if
that's
it's
true.
during the day or if it's at night, they'll go up to the high school parking lot.
Yep.
Because I'm right across the street from it, and about 3 o'clock in the morning, it's like, what in the world is going on? It's like ambulance, cop cars and everybody, and then all of a sudden the helicopter comes in and picks somebody up. But I think that's their primary location if they can clear it.
Yep.
You know.
Oh. Okay, anything else to come before the council? We had a good meeting, thank you. Meeting adjourned.